come and spend your lunch hour with us. For those of you that are joining us for the very first time, my name is Mselekuz and I'm with my husband. Guys, we are parents of three and we are also property investors and we are professional network marketers and we are also founders and producers of the My Success Planner, which is the planner for people that are building their network marketing businesses. So,
Guys, that's who we are. Those are, basically what we do. Those are the things that we're involved in. And today we're actually talking about quite an interesting topic that we came up with, and as we're looking back on our journey. So I'll let you kickstart this topic.
All right. So today we won't waste your time because we know it's work hour and stuff. So today we just wanted to share with you guys how we went from being broke to actually building a multi-million property portfolio. How did we get started? What were the hardships that we faced? Who are we? Who is Umobile and Mselekuz? What did we do before? So that is what we wanted to come and share with you guys, just to share a little bit of inspiration, and just to show you guys that it is possible. While I was at the gym, I was thinking that what, South Africa, believe it or not, is alive with possibilities. It is definitely alive with endless possibilities, guys.
As much as we are a third world country, but the possibilities out there for everyone who's willing to just step out of themselves and do whatever they've got to do to make it work for them. There's a huge possibility, and right now it is your time, black child. It is definitely your time. You can't be going two ways about it. But let me just give you guys a quick background of me before becoming an investor, before network marketing and all that. Well, I was born and raised in the South Coast, believe it or not. KwaGamalakhe. That's where I come from, originally from there, and grew up in Mtwalume as well, in the farm, and also grew up in between Mtwalume and Gamalakhe. I went to high school there, finished, went to study in Maritzburg, and went back home to start work, which was quite great. I've always been a deep thinker, if you want to call it that, a visionary, if you want to call it that. But I've always understood that there's more to life than just waking up and going to work and just making it a survival. But one way or the other, I was just a little bit lazy daisy. But then something great happened to me. I met up with another person who was just out there, who's just raised my level of thinking to a different, whole new level. So it was more like two worlds colliding and coming up with magic. So I'll let you give your quick background as well.
All right. Hi everyone that have just joined us. So we're just taking you guys through our backgrounds. So before becoming property investors, stay-at-home parents, professional network marketers, and publishers of the My Success Planner, I was actually working for a media company here in KZN. Like most people, guys, I was frustrated. I was living in debt. I was borrowing from Peter to pay Paul. I hated, office politics. There was a lot of office politics. I remember at one point in my life where I lost my dad, after working with the very same people for almost 10 years. I remember when I lost my dad, not even one person actually gave me a call to find out how am I doing or to send their condolences. That is when I realized that, what, this environment is toxic. This environment is toxic. Anyway, this is how we got started in building our property portfolio. Number one thing, guys, we had to admit to ourselves that we are stuck.
Yep.
That is the very first thing that we did. It was admitting that we are stuck. Because in most cases, black professionals, they don't admit that, you know what, I am stuck.
Mhm.
We were living from paycheck to paycheck. We were living from credit card to credit card. We were stuck. We were unhappy. We had to have a family meeting, both of us,
Yeah.
and say, you know what, right now we are stuck. This was our first point of having the breakthrough that we have. So right now, if you are facing challenges, especially financial challenges, the very first thing that you need to do, guys, it is to have a sit down and say, you know what, I am stuck. What is my way forward? That was the very first thing that we did.
Yeah, that I remember very clearly, because as much as we were stuck, I was still in denial. I was still in denial. I still had that thing to say, you know what, things are gonna work out. We're gonna get better. But when you look at it in true sense, we didn't have any savings. We didn't have any emergency fund. We didn't have anything. We couldn't even afford to go on a proper holiday. All those things. As a newly wed couple, we just recently bought a house, and all these things were just happening. And we had our old car that she was driving with our daughter. All these things were just happening. But I just had this belief that, you know what, things are gonna work out. Things are gonna work out.
And that belief came from the fact that you had just been promoted at work.
Yeah.
And you became one of the youngest directors.
Yes, most definitely. That was based on that. That each and every plan that I had the company in front to say, if I just hang on in there, if I just do a little bit more, if I just show up a little bit more, when it's time to truly step into my directorship, things would change. But currently we were like really battling.
Yeah, and as we were battling, guys, the bills were piling up. I remember there was a time when my husband, because as much as both of us were employed, he was earning far more than me, but there was a time in his career where he spent, was it 3 months or 4 months?
Yeah.
With no
pay.
With no pay, with no salary. So can you imagine how frustrated we were? We were newlyweds. Right now, we had just recently bought a house. Our daughter was going to a good school, and all of a sudden,
the pay was not there.
The pay was not there, and he was a director, doing pretty well, in his job. And also his friends, our friends, they thought that we were doing okay because we had just gotten married, we bought a car, we bought a house, and they didn't know.
On the outside, when you look at it from the outside, we were pretty much just an ordinary, middle class couple that just got everything going for themselves. When you look at it in that perspective, but when you go deeper into it and you really get to understand where we were, you'd actually find that these people had really nothing going for themselves, except when you see us outside, you wouldn't say, because we're not going to sit down and open up about our issues. But other than that, we were pretty much in bad shape. And that's what happens to most of people, most of young people out there, most of, whether you're old or young. In fact, it happens to almost the best of us, because you get into a situation where you can see that your paycheck is not cutting it for you. Not that you are living an extravagant life, you are just living a normal life, but it is just not happening for you. You can see that there's always loopholes within how you guys spend money at your house, all the things that you get to do. You can always see that there is something short, there is something missing, and some way you're still in denial. You still say, no, we're gonna work this through. It's just it's just a wave that is it's going to pass. That's me. I just thought it was just a wave that was going to pass. Little did I know that, you know, when that time came, when I was getting paid on the 45th day, on the 60th day, you know, really not knowing when am I going to get paid, you know, that was, you know, a different era in my life. I was stressed. I was, you know, we were angry at each other. You know, mostly I was angry at myself. You know, with everything that was happening, I was, you know, at the verge of just, you know, throwing it all away because I just couldn't handle it. So we're getting a little bit sidetracked.
Yeah, but the whole point is, number one, we had to admit that we are stuck. We had to admit that we are stuck. Number two, we are actually taking you guys through the journey on the things that we did to go from broke, you know, to building this multi-million property portfolio. Our property portfolio is quite a lot. We currently have 13 properties, and these are properties that are multi-million. You know, each property costs more than $1 million. Some of the properties, they cost more than 8 million, some more than 6 million, some more than 4 million.
Well,
so it's quite a huge property portfolio.
Let me put it to you this way. We are sitting on a plus minus, you know, above, you know. Okay, she don't want me to say. She doesn't want me to say. Okay, I won't say the number. I won't say the figure.
Yeah.
But it's quite a large
it's quite a
amount.
Yeah. So we have to be open-minded, guys. That is number two. Number one, we have to have a meeting with ourselves that, you know what, we are stuck. Number two, we had to be open-minded to the opportunities presented around us. There is one thing that black professionals do. As much as they are stuck and as much as opportunities are presented around them, they have this thinking, what will people think of me? What will people say? Guys, I always say, if you are already stuck, people are already talking about you. If you are already in debt, if you cannot afford to give your kids quality education, quality life, if all the time when your friends are inviting you to go on lunch dates, to go on holidays, you always come up with an excuse. So already they are talking about you.
You've given them a reason to talk about you because they are all going to skinder about you and say, every time we invite so and so, he or she is never available. What could be the issue? Or is it probably that they don't have the money, but they sort of, you know, portray this lifestyle that they've got? So when we come close to them, they're always pulling away because they actually got nothing to, you know, to show. They just, you know, pretending as if they've got this nice lifestyle. So they are already talking about you. The fact that you are excluding yourself from being around them, they're already sharing that with their other friends to say, hey, you know, so and so is not doing very well, you know?
Yeah.
So it's one of those things that you've got to admit. And after admitting where you are stuck with, then decide to say, hey, I'm going to be open-minded to whatever opportunities that come my way. Obviously, I will do my research. I will, you know, go into detail of the business that I want to get involved in.
So before, you know, starting a network marketing business as our side hustle, we were selling anything and everything. I remember what we started doing, we started by selling curtains, guys. So we used to go to town. This is why I'm saying there are endless opportunities out there. The possibilities are truly endless. So we started selling curtains. We started selling bedding, bed linen. We sold towels. We bought in town, in Devon.
Yeah.
Do you understand? So we had to be open-minded, admit that we are stuck, admit that we need a way out, and admit that we are tired of not having any money. So what we started by doing, we started by selling different things. We sold towels, we sold curtains, we sold bed linen. And I remember there was a time, and also guys, once you are open-minded, you must be prepared to make some sacrifices.
Yeah.
So while we were selling all these things, I remember there was a time when we had this idea of starting a party business. We
Yeah.
didn't have capital to start the party business. I remember there was a time at work where I had to make sacrifices, and I used to go to work wearing the very same pair of shoes for 6 months, because at that time we were putting money together to buy the jumping castles and to buy the other party
tables,
supplies.
the tables and all of that. So everything had to be, start from scratch.
Yeah.
Everything that we did, we started from scratch. Buying wholesale towels, it was still good quality. It wasn't just like a no-name brand. It was good quality that we bought, and some of the people want them embroidered and all of those things. So you put in a little bit of extra money. You get, you are just trying to make your services a little bit better. So all of these things that we had to do was just to try and survive. And then later on, we got into, this party business, which was, doing well, because most of the stuff we're writing them off, because, we didn't have to pay for transport, we didn't have to pay for petrol. So it was easier for us when we were in the party business. I was still employed at the time, so you wouldn't be able to beat us on our price, because we are not charging you petrol, we're not charging you all these other things that other party planners were charging, because we were just using the company vehicle. So it was easy for us to get things going. So we got busy every Saturday and Sunday, always delivering jumping castles. Started with 1, bought another 2, and we ended up with 3 jumping castles. We had lots of chairs and all these things. It was happening.
And we were making money. And also there's something, guys, about starting a side hustle. Once you become open-minded and you start something, you start a side hustle, opportunities, you are going to even be more open-minded to other opportunities, because it started with us selling kettles and then venturing into jumping castles. And then we were presented with this network marketing opportunity by a friend. It was just a Facebook friend that presented the opportunity to us. I remember when we got in, we were skeptical. We were scared of what our friends were going to think of us. We were scared that what if we don't get our money back? What if we don't make this opportunity a success? But as much as we were scared, the fear of remaining the same, the fear of being stuck, the fear of being in debt was actually greater than the fear of getting started. We then got started into the business, and we started making money, growing the team, and we are getting out to the property business. We were very disciplined with our money spending. We were not keeping up with the Joneses. We were not. As much as everyone around us, most people around us were buying cars, we started paying off little debts that we had.
Credit cards,
so we cleared the credit cards, we cleared, our property, we cleared the store accounts, and we started to have, more savings, and we used that savings to pay off the house that we had. So once we were done with the house that we had, we then started renovating the very same house.
And we converted it from just a normal 3-bedroom into a 5-bedroom with 2 en-suite, with an office, with the gym, with the cinema room. It was just blown away, and it was just this beautiful castle in the middle of of nowhere. And it was good to have. And even our neighbors would come around the neighborhood while we were actually busy building, and they would come and see, what is this? And now being in construction, I always had some ideas of how I wanted the house to look, and went and I stole some ideas when I drove around. I want that, so all of that, it brought in that love of property, because now I was in a position to actually start something. So that drive has always been there, but because your current situation is not allowing you to even think outside the box, because you currently don't have money to buy bread when you get home for the kids to go to school and carry lunch. How are you even going to think of, starting investing in property?
Impossible.
It's just not going to happen. So when you are not financially stable, you can't literally dream out
Yeah.
of can't dream your way out. It's highly impossible, because for you to actually even have the vision, you've got to be in good space with yourself. You've got to be understanding where you are at and where you are going. But when you don't have anything, everything that you get is, I have to bring from there, I have to take from that credit card, I have to cover from there, and all of this, and that's just you trying to survive. You can never build anything in that mode. So as much as it's a mental situation, it also becomes very much a physical one, because your state of mind cannot outlive where you are currently at. It's just highly impossible.
Yeah.
So
we bought that house, we renovated that house, and then we sold that house. So we actually stayed in the neighborhood that we were staying in for some time, even though we were now in a position of buying in a fancier neighborhood, buying a bigger house, but we were,
still
trying to build our property portfolio. So when we were still staying there, we are building our network marketing business as well. We started buying one property, which was our investment property. Do you understand? So it's, if you want to build a property portfolio, discipline is key, guys. You don't keep up with anyone. You don't compete with anyone. The only person that you want to compete with, it is yourself. If you want to build anything of value, anything of significance, you don't compete with anyone. Even now, 9 years later, and we are still living way below our means, because the whole idea is to ensure that we build a legacy business for our kids. We don't want our kids to go through the very same struggles that we went through. So from that very first property, we bought the property, we started saving that money. And we used the funds from our network marketing business and the rental income to buy another property, which was property number 2. So it all goes back as well to discipline. It took discipline. Yes, were we tempted to buy cars? Were we tempted to live large? We were tempted, but we were also very disciplined, because we had clarity.
We understood where we come from. We understood our background. We understood, how we were raised. And as much as that temptation comes once in a while, we would literally, she would, say like, nah, just
Not
wait,
now.
not now, because I would be like, yeah, but everyone else, sometimes you are going to be tempted to want to live, just like others live, just because you can afford it. But trust you me, it is better, when your timing is right to actually do it. Once you've secured, we always speak about, we build it for the last name, we build it to last, we build this legacy to pass it on. So if you are going to make money now, and then you go out and live out loud, you go out and you splash all over, you are not going to be able to sustain that type of a lifestyle. That is what I've seen, and I've sort of understood over the years. When you look at other races, I'll just say it out loud. If you look at mostly, most of the entrepreneurial white people, they would drive an old car, and you find that guy is a director of some big shot company, but he drives this old car, day in, day out, one crazy looking car, but the way he lives in a mansion somewhere. He's able to take his kids on holidays. And what do you think? Do you think he doesn't have a legacy created for his kids when he's no longer, employed, no longer able to actually go out and work? He is currently creating that. but you don't see them, splashing out, big things and whatnot. They build behind the scenes. They remain behind the scenes because they understand how to create wealth. And in most of our people, we've lacked so much when it comes to creating wealth, because we have an understanding that when I've got it, I must show it.
They must see.
They must see that I have now arrived. They must see that, so and so, this teacher told me years back that you'll never amount to anything. That neighbor, hated my parents, and they cursed them and said, your kids will never amount to anything. So you are now tempted to go back and just show it off so that you can be like, didn't you say I would never amount to anything? Eat your words. Yes, it's good in a way, but if you really want to build for a long term, even when you can't do anything, but your work is currently feeding whatever you want to get into, that is what we call a legacy. Obviously, you've got to, educate yourself as well when it comes to building legacies, setting up trust funds, it's all those things that we were not exposed to growing up. You just hear the word flying around, so and so is a baby, is a trust baby and whatnot, all those things, and you're like, how does this trust fund thing work? And then you understood that, okay, for anything that I buy now for longevity, that I can pass it on to my kids, I can't buy it in my name, I can't buy it in my wife's name. It has to go to the trust fund so that it is safe there. It is there for safekeeping. And we carry on. And we've just gone from that first property. We've year after year, she just had this bug now of, I haven't signed any new deal. Let's go for it.
It's very addictive, guys.
It can be addictive, that you always want to be signing stuff. You always want to be buying new properties and all that. So we started, buying, and in Durban, at the time, we eventually had about we have 4 in Durban. Well, at the time we had 4, just in the beginning of our years in the industry. So we started moving them over, buying them into the trust and all of that. And somehow, when you look at the property investment, it's not a quick money scheme, It's not a quick money scheme. You can have 5 of them, and when you look at your actual returns,
they're not much.
They are not much. But think about a 20-year lifespan of you collecting, maybe 5 grand on each, which, let's say you've got 5, and then you've got 5, that's 25. And then put that onto a 20-year lifespan of you making 25 grand a month extra. That is not coming towards your daily groceries and all of those things. It's not really included in any of your day-to-day spending. What happens in that case? By the time you reach 10 years of that amount of saving, when we speak of longevity, that is what it means. It's not to have it and shine for now, but you have it so that you can live, from it at a later stage.
Yeah, so that is the key, guys. It's, live within your means, be open-minded to opportunities. I can assure you, once you become open-minded to opportunities, many other opportunities are going to present themselves to you. That is why they always say the rich are getting richer. It's because of that exposure. It's because they are always hungry. It's because they are always looking for more. But in all years, they are always learning. They are always developing themselves. So it all starts by you being open-minded and knowing that not every money that you are earning must go into your mouth. Do you understand? Be disciplined with your money. Start small and build from there. And I can assure you, once you build, you are working, you have a side hustle that is giving, it doesn't matter how much your side hustle is giving you, as long as there are additional funds that are going into your account, your bank will trust you.
Yep.
They want to see that you are making money additionally from the money that you are making.
Consistently
and it's consistently coming in. It doesn't matter the amount. Do you understand? So that is why most people are stuck. That is why most people are renting. It's because they are not open-minded to starting side hustles. Start a side hustle, guys. And once you make money, the bank is going to trust you with their money. Once they see that you are disciplined, the bank is going to trust you, because most people currently are living way beyond their means. So the banks cannot trust them with anything.
They're living above their
They're
means.
living above their means, sorry. So the banks cannot trust them.
Look at it this way. You just graduated from varsity. You get your first job. The first thing you go and buy a BMW. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with the BMW, but it's your first job. You've just gone and bought a car. That is costing you maybe 10, 20 grand a month, including insurances and all that. And what is left from there? It's taking mostly about 60% of your salary already. So you are stuffed already. There is no other bank that can give you any home loan, because you are already committed 60% in. And you are just starting to work. How about you decide to, stay at home for a while, and just, instead of, buying an expensive car, buy a little car that can take you back and forth, but your vision, If you don't want to be in the same big house with the parents, you want to feel like you're old, yes, build a one room outside. We do that in the locations. It's allowed. People have done it all over. Do that. Save your money, look at something, and while you are just, moving around, the cost of your vehicle is minimal. Then you can go to the bank and say, hey, I want to buy that, that flat in such and such a place. And when you do that, you make sure you go into the location. Location is king, because you must look at where your place that you are buying. Will I have potential people to rent? How is the safety in this place? Is it close to transportation? Is it close to, core amenities that are needed, school, clinic, or doctors, or mall, whatever? You look at all those things and you say, okay, this looks like, a pretty decent neighborhood, and then you buy that. You don't have to live in it. You just buy it and you rent it out. You carry on living like you don't have anything. By the time you reach 5 to 10 years, while you're still staying in your old, back room, you've got your little car, and your property is halfway through to being paid off, because you've got, people that are renting it, So you like, okay, you go back to the bank and you say, hey, I just saw another property in such and such a place. I want that. Now you're getting 2 properties.
Yeah.
And you just started working. You are maybe 5, 6 years in, and you are owning 2 properties. By the time you get to a stage where now you want to settle down and have a family and all of that, you are already a property owner.
Okay, Nwabisa wants to know, were you guys buying all these properties cash? When we started Nwabisa, not all our properties were cash, because we didn't have the funds. Like our first house that we had, it was not bought cash, but we were able, but through having side hustles and discipline as well, we were able to pay off our house within, it was 2.5 years.
Well, we bought the house in 2013. No,
2012.
We bought the house in 2012.
Yeah.
And we paid it off in 2014.
Yeah, so we were able to pay off that house in 2 years. So not all our properties were bought cash. Some of them were on credits, but because we were open-minded to starting side hustles, we were able to actually pay off, you know,
The properties,
the
much
properties
quicker.
are much quicker. So right now we are in a position where we buy our properties cash, which is complete peace of mind, especially for us in our industry. You know, we are network marketers, we earn according to the efforts that we put in. So for us, in order for us to have the complete peace of mind, our properties, we buy them cash, you know, because we are in that position. But we had to grind, you know, build our
years.
financial, you know, portfolio, build our property portfolio, and all that, you know. So that is key as well. So guys, that is what we wanted to come to the Zoom and just inspire you guys and show you that, you know what, it doesn't matter who you are, it doesn't matter where you come from, it doesn't matter where you start. The key is to get started, and the key is, guys, discipline. Be open-minded to opportunity. Africa is alive with possibilities. Believe it or not, there is huge potential of making money out there. Most people currently are consumers. They want to consume.
Yep.
They want to consume. So while the world is going to the left, you take right all the time. Always take the road less traveled, because it is in the road less traveled where you are going to create an amazing lifestyle that you didn't think was possible. So if any of you received a link from us or somebody from our team and you would like to know more about how you can build a side hustle using a network marketing vehicle, today at 7 p.m. we are hosting a Zoom presentation. So just get in touch with us if we are the ones that shared the Zoom link with you, or get in touch with somebody from our team that shared the Zoom link with you, and we look forward to hosting you guys at 7 p.m. This evening, where we are going to break down how the network marketing works, what worked for us, and what can
put us
work
in this position
for you as well.
From our background, from of our work, we would not even be close to where we currently are. So everything that we own, everything that we have, everything that we are going to have in the future, it is all through network marketing, and that has been our vehicle, you know, to move us from being down there at the bottom of the gutter, not just in the gutter, but right at the bottom of it, and lifted us up to now
So
being,
where we are currently,
you know, where we are,
Yeah.
where we can actually look around and we say, yes, we've got that, we own that property, you know, and you can just count as you're driving around in certain neighborhood. You're like, oh, that's on the other side. We've got a flat there. We've got a flat there. We've got a house there. We got other houses there. So all of that, it is through just perseverance and understanding your journey, understanding
your
where
personal
you
journey,
want to
not
go,
competing.
where you want to go. You know, no one else, but where you want to go. Where do you see yourself in 2 to 3 years to 5 years time? What do you see, you know, happening in your life? What do you see happening in your kids' life? What do you see, you know, having accomplished in this 3 to 5 years?
Yeah. And
It's all about just having that vision
and clarity, know
and
exactly
just-
what you want and where you see yourself. Like for us, we told ourselves that in our 40s we are going to grind like crazy.
Yeah.
We are going to grind like insanely. But our 50s, we are already in our 40s. But in our 50s, that is when we are truly going to enjoy the lifestyle that we have created. So give yourselves targets as well, and when you know, have something that you are working towards. Know exactly when you are going to slow down, because honestly, we are not going to be on the run forever. We are not going to be on the run forever. We won't be young. We are old already, but we won't be young forever. So we want to come to a place in our lives where we get to enjoy, you know, the life that we have created. So we won't be on the run forever, guys. Come our 50s, we are going to be living large. But in order to ensure that we live large, insanely large,
without having to worry,
we grind now.
we grind now.
Grind now.
So that at a later stage, you can live like a king and queen.
So what sacrifices are you prepared to make, friends, so that you can have the life that most people will only think and dream of? Just last week Friday, we had a meeting with our developer, with our project manager. We are building a multi-million rands property. You know,
Home.
they to a home,
That is
our home. That is going
our
to be
home.
our forever home. And you know, we wanted to add some stuff, take out some stuff. And when we did all this, budget was not an issue. So grind, take opportunities that
Run
are presented
insanely.
to you.
Run
Don't say, don't
insanely.
judge opportunities until you are inside and you get to experience them yourself. And don't ever consult with your broke uncle, because your broke uncle will never, you know, give you any sound financial advice, because they have never created something of value. If you want to go forward, it is always advisable to seek advice from people that are leading lives that you want to lead as well. So if you are keen on joining us this evening at 7 p.m., hit us on our inboxes and we are going to share with you our link, and hope this was of value, guys. Thank you so much for your time. We
And
know
guys,
it's lunchtime, so
you can have a little bit of time to go and enjoy your lunch, and you know, just take it in and try and come up with, you know, better ways. And for the one at 7 o'clock, you will be given a link when you speak to the person that sent
that
you
gave you this link. Yes.
So if I sent you the link, then
You
you
go
come
back.
back to me. If Lydia, if PG, if Nwabisa Trudy
Whoever.
sent you the link,
You go
then
back
you go
to
back to them.
If Mobile
then-
sent you a link, you come back to me, guys. We're excited. We're running in our business currently. We are busy building our class of 2022. We are not sleeping. We are,
Yeah.
you know, training, mentoring the team so that they can have the success that we had, but obviously much faster than we did, because
we've been there. We've
We've
taken
been
the
there.
long road. So now we want to try and fast track it for you and your team as well, so that you get to where you want to go much quicker than us. Thank you so much.
Hope you found value.
Till
Feeling inspired already. Lydia, chat soon. Inbox me for your link. I cannot wait to host you at 7 p.m. this evening. Bye, guys. Thank you
Okay,
so
bye.
much. If you are keen, tomorrow we are going to be talking about something else. So make sure that if you were inspired today, you invite a friend and tell a friend to invite their friend as well. We are going to find another topic
And
which we are going to share
with you
tomorrow,
guys tomorrow.
which will inspire you to move your life forward. Thank you so much, guys.
Cheers.
Bye.